Okay, time for a little arm wrestling. Let's have Anne Marie and Jenna come on stage so the golden arms can get the golden thumbs. So we have a tradition at Ebertfest of giving our filmmakers a golden thumb from Roger Ebert. And years ago, he had his hand cast and made a thumb. And we'd like to present it to you now. Nate and I present the golden thumb to the golden arm.
This is so amazing. Thank you so much.
He's going to take your picture. The real two thumbs up. Okay. Thank you, Andy. And this is Andy, our festival coordinator.
You guys can thumb wrestle now.
Okay, let's have a seat. Actually, I'll put you two here so that I can look one way and either one of you can answer. First of all, I want to let our audience know that we have regrets because that comedic actress, Betsy Sodero in the movie, was supposed to be with us today, right? And she sends her regrets.
Yeah, absolutely. Maureen Barucha, the director.
Oh, Maureen, right.
Yes,
Maureen Barucha,
she's in Germany filming a series. Mary Holland, you guys may have seen her on many things on Netflix that she's been on recently. She's amazing. And of course, Betsy, just bringing so much joy and laughter through. And then even Olivia. We had Olivia coming as well, Brenda the Bone
That's
Crusher.
Brenda.
And everybody got booked. So I guess that's good for, means that if you're in our movies, any stars out there, you're going to get booked after.
Good. Betsy reminds me of John Belushi. And so tell me how the process, let's start at the very beginning. How did you even think of making a movie about women arm wrestlers?
Well, I had been doing a charity called DC Lady Arm Wrestlers. I lived in Washington, D.C., and my friends and I were looking for something fun to do to raise money for charity. And we had read this article about these women that were raising money in Charlottesville, Virginia, by arm wrestling and becoming these crazy characters and raising funds. And I was like, that sounds like something I need to do. I don't know why. But we started the charity. We got personas. We went out and elicited a lot of different women, all walks of life, lawyers, lobbyists, doctors, teachers to come out. And one of the things that struck me was during the rehearsal, it's like moms and teachers coming to show up and be like, now what are we going to do now? We're going to do this and that. And you're like, yeah, this is how it's going to go. And then the night of the bout would happen, and these women would show up, boobs out, hair did, nails on, ready to throw down. And that transformation and that wild passion and energy coming out of these women that, just 24 hours ago were sitting in suits and, kitten heels, I was like, that is really interesting transformation. So, starting to think about that, Jenna is a journalist by trade. She came to one of our bouts and saw this craziness and said, we really need to be writing about this. We need to write a movie set in this world.
I did, and it was so fantastic to see all these ladies. And I would hear about what Anne Marie was doing, and she was giving money to charity, and also just to see these women transforming themselves. So I wrote an article for Huffington Post about the arm wrestling and the charity, and the pictures were fantastic. And we posted the article, and then it just went viral. Everyone was reading it and talking about these women doing arm wrestling. I think it's just a shocking thing to think about. You don't see it, but there is this whole underworld. And so I said, Anne Marie, this is such a crazy idea. We should write a movie about this. And it was a whole process on how we figured out how to break the story. And Anne Marie's right. Seeing the women have these different careers, like you notice the doctor working in the ambulance. We wanted to show that the wrestlers have different lives and they're not just doing this. It was so fun to watch that come together.
So we wrote the script and, kind of based it on some of our, favorite lady comedies, Bridesmaids, League of Their Own. We joke that it's Bridesmaids meets Over the Top is kind of how we went out.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of fans on Twitter that like Over the Top and that watch Golden Arm, and I think it's so fun.
And this was about 2012 when we wrote the first draft of the script, and then we went out with it, the term to take it out, or your management takes it out to producers, and we got a lot of like, hey, this is hilarious, but it's not commercial. There's nobody that wants to see a female arm wrestling comedy. And we're like, well, we do. And and it was a real heartbreaker at the time. Now, this is kind of pre-Me Too, and it just was a piece of material that wasn't resonating with the folks that we had gone to. And so one night over a couple cocktails, I was like, Jenna, what if we just tried to do this ourselves? What if we tried to make a feature? And she's like, fuck yeah.
That's how I.
So, we decided, like, we'd both made short films before. We've done stuff for our friends and done indie, been on indie sets and things. And we're like, well, how hard can it be to do this? Well,
Incredibly hard.
incredibly hard. And so we actually set out to we formed a company, we took in investments, and we started building a budget. We hired Maureen, we hired a casting director to help us reach out to the actresses that were in it. And it just was one of these things, like every step of the way, rolling that rock up the hill, but then we would gather people that would be like, believe in you, and as you mentioned, one of those people is here today. I just want to give her a shout out, which is Bridget Brakefield, who was
Bridget,
our first investor.
I know you're very shy, but please just stand up and wave to the audience. Bridget Brakefield. Yeah, thank you.
It's so important to have people that are supporting you, and you're an artist like that, because, and Bridget she came to set, she was so incredibly kind and generous with her time and just her thoughts too. It was lovely.
How did you find Maureen to direct? How did you decide that that's who could direct this?
We actually started in a women's directing group. We wanted to have female empowerment in front of the on-screen and behind screen too. So we went and met her. She had directed 2 films, so she had done this before. She loved the script, and she was also had a foot into the LA comedy scene. So she knew Betsy, she knew Mary, and it just all the pieces lined up that she seemed like the right person, and she put her all into it. We did a sizzle reel, which is when you're raising money and you're putting together your financing. It's good to have a little taste of what you might see on screen, and Maureen did that. Betsy came out and helped us with that. So all these little steps along the way are so important to getting to the finish line.
And funny, tell me about how you two worked as a team. You were best friends. So I love the best friends, the friends storyline throughout. But tell me how you two worked as a team.
We claw each other's eyes out on a daily basis. No. Jenna and I have been writing together for a little over 10 years. Jenna actually, funny enough, was at UCLA getting her master's in screenwriting, and I was getting my master's in psychology. And I would call her every day and be like, what are you doing? Because that's what you do. Back in the day before texting, we were calling each other. And she would tell me about her writing, and I just kind of like fell in love with the idea of like being a screenwriter. And I said, would you mind if we could write something together? And she at the time was kind of funny because she's like, sure, because everybody is coming up to the UCLA graduate and saying, I've got a screenplay, will you help me write it? But like the next day I turned in like 27 pages of this screenplay, and I was like, here, read this. And she's like,
It was
you're
so
serious.
funny. It was so good. I love reading her scenes. I just can't wait to get them. It's like a slice of cake that I get to bite into. I'm so happy when she sends me her scenes, and then we just start sending scenes back and forth to each other and outlining, and that's like sort of it still works the same way.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time breaking the story and then over the phone, and then writing an outline, and then she usually writes the first half and I write the second half, and then it just becomes rewriting after that, because all good writing is rewriting. So lots of rewriting happening.
That's amazing. People always say they're going to do something, but you actually were motivated to do it, and you gave her the 27 pages so she couldn't say no.
I didn't want to say
and she's-
no. I loved
And
it.
it was terrible. She's being
No,
very
it was
sweet.
great.
The first screenplay I ever wrote was really bad. So, yeah. And the third and the fourth.
No.
Are you also, did you go into psychology? Are you also a psychologist?
So I have a master's in what is called organizational development and career counseling. And so I could have been a full-blown counselor, but
She spends all of her time counseling me. I'm her one patient.
I know, that's the thing. That's, every day. But I think what's interesting to me about screenwriting about movies, it's all about human problem solving. Like when you watch somebody who's struggling so hard, and then they go through a change, and at the end, there's a feeling of elation because they've changed and their life has more potential. Now, in a tragedy, obviously, that's different, but I love that. I love the character arc. And then Jenna, although she loves character arcs and everything, but she's also a magnificent plot. She gets plot. She edits incredibly well. Like I don't want to say that too loud because everybody's going to come up and be like, "Can you look at my script?" But yeah, she's a teacher. She's taught at Emory. She's taught at UCLA. Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
It's so, what I love about our process is we both have different ways to come to the story, and I think you need both. You need an engine to move the story along, but then you need the character too to care. If you don't care, you're gonna walk out. So it's so important. But then if it's not fast enough, things aren't moving, that can slow things down too. So I think both are very important.
So did you have any big conflicts when you were writing? Or if you did have conflicts, how did you resolve them? I mean, I don't know whether it was a plot point, or anything, any kind of conflict that
We arm wrestled for.
You arm wrestled for.
But now we're gonna thumb wrestle. I feel like over time, when we do have a conflict, or when we have two different perspectives on one piece of the script, at this point, we'll just say to ourselves, there must be a third answer, because we're not seeing it the same. So we just start brainstorming to see if we can find something else there. That's usually how we would settle a conflict, because you're certainly gonna feel things going different directions.
And then I'm wondering, Maureen may be the best person to answer this question, but Betsy has a strong personality. Did she help shape the character, even though you had it on the page, but did she really, how was the process of her shaping the character of what we ended up with on the screen?
That's a great question, and I would say a lot. I mean, both Mary, Betsy, Olivia, everybody brought so much to our characters that just made them leap off the screen. The thing that makes me laugh about Betsy is, in our original script, there was one F-bomb, because in terms of like rating it R, PG-13, and we showed up to set the first day, and Danny used F-bomb as though it was a comma in a sentence, so we were like, let her do what she's got to do, and it worked for the character, worked for her, but yeah, those ladies brought so much, and Mary and Betsy are fantastic improv comedians as well. And so they would take scenes that we had written, and we kind of find the rhythm and do the scene and get the story beats, and then Maureen would be like, now try it like this, try it like that, and some of the greatest stuff came out of there, and humbly, it makes us look incredibly good, but they also were bringing so much funny.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about the scene where the bone crusher comes up to her and she says, "I smell the fear," and she's like, "No, confidence. It's confidence."
That was Anne-Marie's line.
Yeah, we actually wrote that one. So thank you for. Woo! But yeah, I mean, you get to that point when you're on set, and there's this big family, and it's collaborative. I mean, film is a collaborative thing. So I do feel like sometimes Maureen was put in a tough spot, because we were like writers and producers. So here's our writing, and now we're gonna be like, did you get that beat? And so she was a really great sport about it.
Oh, come to think of it, how how long was the shoot? How many days?
20 days?
And how did you, the cinematographer, and who did all of that, finding that for you?
Maureen brought her crew with her, which she told us from the beginning, I need to work with my cinematographer, my camera operator, and we were just fully supportive of her bringing her creative team. And they did something a little bit different, like it's more of a dramedy, the way it's filmed. So we love that.
And I have to tell you another thing that really surprised me the first time I saw this. So you see, I forgot what Betsy Baker. That's
Mary Holland,
Mi- the breadwinner. But what's her screen name? Melanie. In the bakery, and you see, you know, how kind of easygoing she is, and then not Betsy, what's her name? Danny. And Danny shows up. And so Danny is this brash, in your face, and they're going to go on this road trip together. And I didn't know, I mean, I didn't think about, okay, what's her sexuality? But I was really surprised when she sees Carl, and you realize, you know, she likes guys. So was that an intentional thing that you did in the movie?
I think she's just passionate, so whatever moves her, she responds to, is sort of how I see her. So, but we just thought it would be so funny that she has this revenge plot going on, but then she's also pulled in this romantic way that's a conflict for her. But very, very interesting question. I think it's up to the audience to interpret where her head is at on that.
I think too, like when we were writing it, we kept trying to take tropes of sports movies and kind of turn them on their head. So the fact that, you know, Danny is a strong, passionate woman, and that a man would be attracted to that, because usually it's like, no, I gotta be, you know, I want to be cute, or I'm the girlfriend of the Karate Kid. I'm not the actual Karate Kid, you know. So we tried to do a lot of that and just be, you know, a little more modern in the storytelling, which, you know, at the time in 2012, again, it felt a little bit more modern, and then actually Me Too actually helped us, because at least we were able to start getting our material out and be seen for, you know, being writers that, you know, material was set up at like Amazon and Netflix and a couple places, and so it also helped investors believe in the project as we kind of brought them along.
You know, one place where you really turned the trope on its head is the scene in the baseball field where she's saying, I want to act out this fantasy, and this is happening, and she's standing against the fence, and he's, you know, she's back against the fence, and then he says, let's try it the other way. That was really sweet. I mean, I think it really worked, and that's, you know, to see, because you could see he's physically a strong guy, and he's in a very, you know, macho field, baseball empire, whatever he was. And
well, it was interesting because actually Eugene improv that. So to me, I actually love that. I'm happy to share that, because everybody, when they came in and they saw what we were trying to do, and they were sort of imbuing themselves with these characters, he's like, Greg's the kind of guy that wouldn't just do that. He'd turn around and he'd let her have it too. And so you're like, yeah, 100%. And it was just a collaborative thing. And I do think that moment is really sweet, and it says a lot about his character. And I think it makes the audience root for them to, you know, end up together, because they see he respects her, and he's willing to kind of give up the driver's seat, you know.
And the other thing is, I know you say that is there really like a women's arm wrestling circuit that goes across the country?
Yeah, so Dot Marie Jones, who played Big Sexy, is a real life, you know, it's true, 600 wins as a national champion. Yeah, Dot, let's give it up for Dot.
Some of the, all the photography, like the old pictures and the belts, were her real belts and photos from her wins.
And you know, talk about adding to the feeling of the movie and feeling legitimate. she is, so when she came on, I mean, it was magic. She was just magic. And she, we had break hour in position and we had the strap and everything in the script, but she brought so much more to it. One of my favorite lines is when she's like, "Don't ever go to losing position because we don't practice being a loser." I always say that to my kids now. I was like, "We don't practice being a loser."
Oh, that brings up, is the strap thing a real thing?
It is a real thing. And so in Dot's world, she's actually in the regulated women's arm wrestling. And funny enough, we filmed in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was hosting a big event maybe 3 months prior to us being there. So yeah, the strap's real, the arm wrestling table, the pins, how you're supposed to regulate it. They also watch for break arm because they don't want people breaking in arms and things. So yeah.
What about the standing on the table holding beers? Is that a way to practice, or did you make that up?
We tried to, we made that up. But what's interesting is that sequence, when it was first written, was written like, Chariots of Fire. Then we have this location, and we had to figure out, how would she train in this bar? We only have outside this bar and inside to film. So we just thought, we'll have her balance. She was supposed to be trying to balance, and we'll throw a bunch of stuff at her. All of that stuff was thrown by us. We threw the popcorn.
And there were bras. I don't know if people noticed there were bras. We were throwing crazy things. At one point, we had Mary slapped by a fish, which I was like, oh, why didn't that make it in? But those were some of the...
I felt so sorry for the PA that had to go buy the fish and keep this fish on ice that we never used. Then they smelled like fish after that. This poor person who had to go to Kroger and get it.
And like Alfred Hitchcock, you made an appearance in the film. Tell us where.
I am in the big sexy bar scene shooting beers, but Amory has a much better, more prominent, exciting role.
Well, I was Cleopatra, but I got smacked and my headdress falls off, which was improv, like it was just part of it. And there was like 4 cuts of me. I was like, you gotta use the goofiest one, like the one where she's like, so that was me. And I don't like losing. That was really hard to do.
So the other question I had, just naturally, in order to do this, did you embark on a little arm wrestling yourself? I don't mean you two together, but at any rate, did you try to learn a little bit about?
Right. Well, in the charity, I had said this. I was my persona was Scarlett O'Scara, and my tagline was "There is no tomorrow." And I'd come out with Rhett Butler behind me, and get up there. And I actually am a Golden Bicep winner of the DC Lady Arm Wrestlers.
What?
Yes.
Wow. Badass.
Lots of golden awards here.
Wow.
It's a lot in the back, and I played volleyball and stuff, and so I was just always into athletics, and I had 3 brothers, and I arm wrestled a ton. I think if there's any other ladies out there with a lot of brothers, that's all you did when you were growing up. So, yeah, no, I did get up there and arm wrestle, and the league was quite competitive. DC's league was quite competitive. We actually had 2 arm breaks, yeah, because people would get up and not really realize what they were, getting into, but...
Anne-Marie will cringe every time that arm breaks because she's seen it in person. It's
That's really impressive that you won, and it's so funny in the film after
You could tell names. Danny or Melanie?
No, after Melanie breaks her arm and Danny comes into the green room to sympathize with her, but she can't. She's almost throwing up.
That is, they played that scene so incredibly well. It was awesome, and then their real life friendship, you can just feel it in that scene, and they did an amazing job. And every time that comes on, I cry, and they're great. They're wonderful people, and they did a great job, and we couldn't be more grateful.
And they really brought it. It was 105, I think, or was it 107 in Oklahoma? Yes. And it was so hot. That scene where Jerry is sweating, I think it was just natural sweat because it's so hot in that dusty, sunny town. And they never complained once. They just came, and we worked all day for 20 days straight, and they were amazing. And that truck, they were in the back of that truck laying down, and it was so hot there.
So one more question before we throw it open to the audience. What are you working on now? What's your next project?
Well, we actually have a feature comedy set up at Netflix that is with it's a director's attached. It's out to cast, so hopefully you'll see that in the next year. And we have another comedy with Amazon that's sort of like a women of a certain age. It's about four women that are bridesmaids in their friend's second wedding and sort of the hijinks they get up to. And we're writing another treasure comedy, like a lady treasure comedy, and so there's a lot of things sort of out there that we're trying to work on and get done. But we really hope that one of these movies gets made soon, so we can share another piece of our work with the world.
And I hope so that we can bring it back to the big screen
Oh,
here
yes.
at Ebertfest. Okay, let's turn up the lights and go to the audience. And we have some mic wranglers out there. Questions? Let's, right in the middle here. Where's the mic? Oh, if someone has a microphone, please stand and
Right
identify yourself.
down front, middle.
Okay.
Hi,
Right.
I'm Susan. I love Heart, and how did you pick all the music that goes so well with the scenes? I mean, what you do is incredible. I couldn't even know where to start. But to be able to pick the music that goes so well with each scene, how did you do that?
I can comment on the Heart song, and then maybe Amory, you can comment on how you make the choices. But Maureen, our director, loved that song, and this is also, for me, a way that a lot of indie filmmaking gets done, which is if you really love something, you've got to find someone that can help you get it. So my neighbor was a record producer back in the day, and he's since retired, and I said, we really love this Heart song. Can you please get to Heart? Can you please... I think it's owned by Sony. And he just made some phone calls, and we continued to write letters and say how much we love the music and how important it was to put in the film, and then showed them the scene, and they were absolutely lovely. Once you can finally get to the person to show them what you're passionate about, that's how that worked out. But you can't give up. You got to just stay focused on what you love and go after it, which was sort of the mantra we had to use this whole time.
And Heart did us the favor of reposting the clip with their song in it on social media when it finally came out. So that was a real thrill.
They are so nice. They're just lovely people. That's so supportive.
Question?
Just to your left, second row.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I come from the confluence of roller derby, retired skater, and then announcer for the Twin City Derby Girls, which anybody, have any fans out here? I don't know. Woo! Thank you, and Second City and the Annoyance in Chicago. So I really resonate. This really resonates with me. I thought this was an incredible cast, and I thought that I noticed that Upright Citizens Brigade was one of your credits. Do any of the actors, were they with UCB?
Yes, Mary and Betsy, and
Okay.
I believe Dawn as well.
Okay.
Eugene, Ron Funches. Yeah, they all, a lot of them did get their start there in UCB, Upright Citizen Brigade, which is an improv troupe in LA.
Thank you very much. It was a fantastic film.
Thank you. I think
Thank
you're going
you.
to need to arm wrestle now after all the...
I'm all tuned up. I just need to do a little workout. So.
I think I see somebody in the back there with a microphone.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Chris, and great movie. I'm telling you, it's going to be a
Thank
cult
you.
classic. It's
Thank
going to get a great following, and a lot of the people that started it, I think, are going to be very successful comedians. Chaz had mentioned that Betsy reminded her of John Belushi, and I would agree. Just a great talent. You being writers and producers, though, I was curious, how much room did you leave in there for improv? Because there seems to be a lot of spontaneity in the movie.
Well, we tried to leave as much room as we could, just because that's what these ladies do, and they do it so well. And, you know, when you're writing, and especially you're writing comedy, it's like the best joke wins, you know. So one of the things that was really interesting is Kate Flannery came up to me and she said something like, "How are you doing?" Because we were doing a scene, and we had done the scene a few times as written, and then we were into the improv, and I was just sitting there kind of laughing, like literally my cheeks were hurting because I was laughing so hard. And she's like, and I just said something like, "You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for the improv and all your genius ideas." And she said, "Well, you built the house that we get to play in." And I thought that was so generous of her to do that. And I said, "You're right." And I think, you know, if you cannot have an ego about those things, it just makes it better. So,
Also, we rewrite it so many times, I can't remember what we actually put in there. Watching the movie, I just think to myself, was that? I feel like it's all Mary and Betsy's improv that made it in. We would joke on the set that we were the poor man's Judd Apatow, because we would let them go. They would just go and go and go. And we tried to capture as much as we can and also stay on time before we'd have to go and reset for the next scene. But yeah, leaving, you definitely would want to leave room for improv when you have actors like that, for sure.
When you're writing together, if you're in the same room, do you crack each other up? I mean, are you?
yeah, totally. I
Emery's
mean, when
so
it's really
funny.
working working well, it's literally like, you know, the kind of laughter you would get at an improv show or a comedy show, because you're like, oh my God, that would be so funny, so funny. But the thing about writing comedy, I mean, it's, you still want the story to be good, and so sometimes the special sauce, like the funniest stuff, has to wait, because if you don't want to write a joke that you're just like, oh, I love that joke so much, like, but it makes no sense in the story, and then you're kind of like, oh. So we've gotten to a place where that's why we outline first, even though we can have like a sense of like, oh, this will be the tone, or this will be a funny joke to have here. If it doesn't work, you know, story is paramount, because that's what brings people to watch your movie and sit through the movie, and then maybe, you know, go out and buy the DVD. It's out there.
I'm also curious, were you two funny growing up? Were you funny in your families, or were you in drama clubs growing up?
Yes, I was in trouble most of my life from my mother, and I have three brothers. My dad is actually probably the funniest person I've ever met, so I was always trying to keep up with him and who's the funniest, and we would have contests in my house about who's going to be the funniest, and I really wasn't the funniest. Like, again, my dad, who worked his fingers, you know, worked at this as a salesman for 50 years at the same place, come home, do a set to us like he's Rodney Dangerfield, and then be like, all right, I'm going to go watch the game, and I'm like, okay. What about you, Jenna?
Oh, well, Amory and I were always getting up to antics in high school, and like just making fun of, like sitting on a bench making fun of people, or just coming up with weird ideas. And I love writing. I started writing. I put on a play in my garage that I made my brother do with me, which was a comedy. But yeah, I think it just comes natural to our friendship. That's why it's so fun to write with someone. And most of these shows on TV, they have a writer's room so that you can get that back and forth and the banter. But Emery's right. We try not to put what's, even as fun as it is to talk about the jokes, we try not to write to the joke, because then you end up having to take your joke out that you loved, and then you're just bummed out. So we try to save the jokes for the very last couple of passes of the script.
Okay, there's someone there,
Next
Mr.
question.
Microphone.
In the balcony?
Balcony, okay.
To the right.
To the right.
To your right.
Hello.
Hi, I love the movie, and I was wondering, especially given that Dot Marie is a real arm wrestler, I was wondering if you used other real arm wrestlers in the movie, and also what the response has been like from the ladies' arm wrestling community, if the film has gotten out to the community at all.
Well, Dot was the only official lady arm wrestler in the movie, aside from Scarlett O'Scara. Although mine was a charity; it wasn't actually a regulated thing. But you know, the response has been really great. Some of the gals from the charity that we had done came out to set. They were actually in the movie too, in these little cameo background things. And then we talked to all the other different leagues around the United States and tried to get them to watch it. And you know, everybody's been really sweet and supportive.
I saw Mr. Microphone going over there somewhere.
We have a question to your left here on the floor.
Okay, all right.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and first, I wanted to compliment you on doing a fantastic comedy that in the first 60 seconds is funny. And that is a testament to you and to Betsy, and just that first minute, we got the vibe of what this movie was going to be.
Thank you.
And it stayed on that pace the whole time, and it's
Thank
a
you so
women's
much.
slapstick comedy with the elements of the drama and the romance in there, and I know that's probably a hard balance to make sure that you have the sell to say it can have all these things. That's fabulous. And women in comedy on screen, deserve to have great showcases, and you showcased the heck out of these women in this movie, starting with the top two and with everyone else. And people often forget, they go, well, who was before Carol Burnett and Lucy? You got Thelma Todd and Zazu Pitts and Patsy Kelly, and this legacy of people that go all the way up to Tina and Amy and June, Diane, Raphael, and these people that you embody with the comedy that you're doing here, I think is fantastic. And question.
Thank you.
I'm only going to let you go on for like 20 more minutes, but just keep going with that compliment.
My favorite women on screen are women in comedy or women in film noir. So anyway, since the show Glow had come out on Netflix, how was that an impetus for you to feel empowered and charged up, saying, this show's a hit, this show works, Netflix is backing that, we have something in that mode with this way. I'm curious how you saw that, you liked that, how it may have influenced your feeling on your own work. And then also a throw out, I have a friend who is in Claw, which is the Chicago Ladies League of Arm Wrestlers. And so, yeah.
I know Claw well. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. What a wonderful question, as Jenna said. Go on. What was the question?
The question about Glow is
Glow.
when you first see that.
And are you thinking of making a series of it?
There's talk about that. Jen and I have a soft spot for a second movie, and we already have sort of an idea of what we'd like to do with it. It's just a matter of maybe finding the right people that might want to sponsor it, because it's going to be even more expensive than the first one, because we want to go to Bulgaria. Yes, where the world championships are held. And right now the reigning champion is a gorgeous blonde woman with biceps the size of cantaloupes, if you look her up. So I think we need to go there, take our ladies there. But Glow.
Well, when we saw, myself personally, when I saw Glow, and when you have a project and you see another project that's exactly like your project and someone's already doing it, you do become a little bit anxious. Like, is this mean there's no room in the marketplace for a second piece of material like this? But really, it is a positive thing, because then you know that this is content that people are interested in. So we did get really excited about Glow. And we were in the process of it being in pre-production when that was on the air. So I loved it. And it has the same energy. It has, even though it's a period piece, but it has just sort of like the spandex fun that we were going for too. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I thought it was fantastic. And I'm glad that we could both survive.
So I got the signal that we have one more question, and I think I see Mr. Microphone with someone right there.
First, Chaz, thank you for booking this movie. I really appreciate the laughter. Next, this is personal for Jenna. She has a neighbor that's from our town, and I thought it would be fun if you would mention your neighbor's name for anybody that might know your neighbor.
Oh yes, one of my neighbors is Abby McBride, and she is an actress. She was in Veep, and I was telling you that she was giving me some restaurant recommendations if anyone knows Abby.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, shout out Champagne.
Shout out to Champagne. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Jenna and
everybody.
Anne-Marie.
Thank you,
Loved
Chaz.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. It was so fun.
Thank you.